Greetings, meatbags. This is the ISO. So, the Vanguard playtest is back for its big June update, and things are starting to shape up in this game. Let me go over some of my first impressions. Sorry for the appearance change. I figured it was a good time to try out this Vanguard avatar. It's pretty well made. It looks a lot like the old Galente scout suit from Dust. This is the Quaff edition of it. Yeah, it's a meat bag, not a robot, but you could argue that the old Dust clones were fleshy robots anyways. They are chocked full of nanorobots after all. So anyway, I'm really digging the new setup in Vanguard. It's beginning to feel like a real game. I got together with the boys on our Eve Discord to check it out. I'll go over some of what's new and what's good and save some of the negative stuff for later in the video. So, what's new and good? A lot of the same stuff from before is largely here still, but the gun is now stripped down with this new chip customization mechanic. But I noticed that I picked them up at some point during the playtest, and they were rewarded at the end of the match. Most of the attachments are kind of garb to begin with, and the ones that I found most useful were the ones that get rid of the recoil on the gun, the stabilizer ones. They make the shooting mechanics feel right in line with something like Call of Duty, kind of quasi hit scan. I forget the tack right away. Yeah, there's like no recoil on this gun. That's awesome. It's basically hit scanning. I also got a scope, which made shooting at range actually feasible for once. It's got a nearly perfect crosshair. I really like the design. I noticed that it is, in fact, useless for the most part when an enemy closes in on you, so that makes sense. And that it is likely why they have an alpha beta mechanic for the gun. So you can put two loadouts on the gun using chips. Each loadout is its own set of chips that you acquire, and you swap between them with Q. The default reticule is pretty good too. You can easily mow down NPCs up close with it. Speaking of mowing down NPCs, there's a mission, an environment thingy. Sorry, I wasn't the one running the mission stuff, so I'm not super sure, but an alarm goes off in certain areas and a bunch of NPCs get dropped off by a dropship and they rush you. And when I say a bunch, I mean a lot. Try 10. Yep. Smell their asses down.
We're gonna mow them down alright. Out of ammo. Switching to energy.
Alright, they're down. If they get reinforced before you get to kill all of them, more will spawn in. And I really haven't had fun like this with Vanguard since it came out. I was taken a bit back by the sensation because I was so used to being disappointed by this game. But yeah, two types of enemies come at you. Grunts and elites. Sorry for the Halo firefight analogy, it's kind of burned into me, but this is effectively Halo firefight, but in an extraction shooter. The grunts can be identified by a Caldari assault suit that has no texture, and the elites are the red unit that looks kind of like a recycled asset from Project Legion. I think those were like Sancha or something, but you really have to mag dump on those elites. The AI is just as aggressive as before, so it can get really hectic and you really got to use your environment. On that, the environment is pretty awesome. It really retains that look and feel of Dust and Eve while finally adding foliage. About time they added plants to Dust. It took 10 years. It's still a bit on the dreary side and follows like a similar map flow to the other map, but getting around the map is pretty easy. The mini-map is the same kind of deal, but slightly more annoying interface. I'll talk about that more in a minute, but there are new objectives to do, and the one I really like doing, mainly because it's somewhat easy, is the escape pod decoding thing. And this is where I think I get the chips from. I was looking back on some of the footage. You use your mining tool to open the pod and a little scanner pop on it, and you put in the code after the decoder goes off and you receive money that you can't spend yet. I can kind of see what they're kind of going for with this game, and still the lack of communication and what the vision of the game is still a thing, but there's a lot of interesting busy work to do, like guarding a mining drill. To get more useless money. There's kill NPCs that I mentioned earlier. And also there's this mission where you find dead bodies and like burn their minds. I really do see a rough outline of things, but nothing to really cement any value in the game itself. Okay, so on to the negatives. Yeah, this was coming. Basically, the interface seems like it's a little stickier than before. I can't escape out of this. It says escape. It has a lot more options, yes. You can do more things with it. You get like sub menus and everything. But the problem is you have to hit escape twice to get out of it instead of it just being a toggle on off kind of thing. So it's kind of annoying when you're like, okay, I'm going to build some ammo and then the menu is sticking up and you can't move your character at all. It's like, what are we doing? So there's that. So I want to go back a little bit and look at the whole test as it's a single product, so to speak. There's nothing to put value or ownership into things. Like, yes, you have your chipsets, and the chipsets are nice. You can, it seems like you lose them. I'm not really positive on that, but it seems like it's hard to figure out what you lost, and I think the money's gonna play a big role in that. That's a player. He got me. Shoot him. Well, I'm heading that direction. He died.
He already got my stuff. That's okay.
Not if I kill him and take it back from him.
Dun dun dun.
I believe I just killed him. I'm just now figuring out that you have to completely clone death the 3 or several clones that you lose over the period of the playthrough. You don't lose them when you lose the specific gun, it seems like. Or at least I was losing some, but not all of the chips. I'm sure there will be more elaborate fittings into the fuller game, more beta of the game, when they decide to come back and grace us with more testing of Vanguard before it becomes a real product. Having money that you can't really lose, it feels hollow for now, at least for these tests. When you do have a suit on the line that is worth, 1 million of these credits, you're gonna really feel that in your wallet. But I mean, I think if they just had a little bit of promotional stuff, like hints, it would be nice. I'm not super sure that the gun chip fitting thing is good enough to fully replace something like the old dust fitting system. It would really be a waste to scrap that and replace it with the chips. Kind of need both to maintain that EVE Online feeling that Dust had. I get that shooters need customizable guns, and that was a major suggestion back when Dust was a thing. But different armor types, a la Logi, or, like a Logi ship in EVE, or a stealth scout suit, like a recon ship in EVE, and the module fitting, like the high, medium, and low slots. A good player customizing their fitting is going to give a certain advantage over people who don't know how to fit as well. And that's what makes EVE really good, isn't necessarily that, oh, I have the best stuff. No, it's how you fit it. They really had something unique in Dust with the first-person shooter genre. There really was nothing else like it, and there still is nothing like it. So that link that bridges the game together, the corruption mechanic, I think it's kind of a weak one. It may matter to some EVE players, but as I said in previous videos, as Vanguard players, the corruption to the person playing in Vanguard has no bearing on Vanguard itself. And there's this card at the end of the match that says how much corruption you added or prevented. And to that, players are like, who cares? It does nothing for me. Even as an EVE player, it feels like it's kind of like, if you're not engaging in that mechanic. One of the things to mention about the player base is that it didn't seem like anyone was playing the game. I spent a long time in the recent test to join a random squad, and when I finally got on our Discord server, there was only one person playing it. When I ran a squad with another guy, Haku was in the background, and a squad mate had said he died, and he was like, oh, I'm getting shot, and then immediately was like, oh, I'm dead. And Haku was like, was it Ariana? And it actually was Ariana.
That's a player.
That's a player. Hey, got me.
Got me too.
Were you
That's
killed
all
by
right.
Ariana?
Yep. How'd you know, huh?
I was killed by Kari no Kari.
Oh, Cardia. Another famous Dust player.
I said out loud that, what are the odds that you guessed that it was Ariana? Haku mentioned that there was another squad in another Discord and you could see them in voice, and also that it happened really fast. That's kind of characteristic of Ariana, but we brushed it off, and I played with him like an hour or so later, and we bumped into Ariana Squad again. And that kind of cemented in my mind that there were very few people playing this. And to see them again like that, that's not really a good sign that CCP really went out of their way to promote the game as part of a main expansion, and this being promoted as a fairly full-fledged game, and when it is far, far from a pre-alpha on pre-alpha. This is closer to proof of concept and will likely not be a game for at least a few years. The game mechanics are being added before skins because the concepts may not survive the chopping block. Why put effort into the art for an asset if it has the potential to vanish in the next version? CCP seems like they're kind of doing this in the dark with no real strong direction and just trying to see what sticks. And honestly, it's not a good way to spur interest in a product because it always seems like it's going to be chasing some kind of trend or making it a half-baked add-on that no one seems to care about. And this has historically been a thing with CCP, where they'll make a product, realize that no one likes it or isn't playing it because it's not fully developed or whatever, and then they can or axe it because of the self-fulfilling prophecy they put themselves in. I mean, look at Valkyrie. Valkyrie had the same kind of cycle of bullshit that happened to it. I mean, Spark is another example. Like, nobody played it because the game stopped being developed on. But there is one thing that CCP released in the past decade and a half, and it had a cult-like following. People want Dust back. I hear it from people all the time. So yeah, so CCP, like, so what if we're retreading old paths? Like, you found your golden goose and shot it in the face the first moment you had a chance. Like, we would not be in this position over a decade later if Dust came out in the PC in the first place. The reason Dust died was because it was on the PS3. Stop saying that Dust that was a failure because the game was at a fault. Dust was good. Listen to your fan base for once. So yeah, ranting a little bit about, like, oh, bring Dust back. Like, yeah, I mean, please do, but, like, make a product that people want to play, or you have a fan base that already wants to play. I hope when they go back and Vanguard goes on its hiatus to develop the game more and to learn from the test, I really hope there's someone in the room when ideas are being thrown around that pushes it in the direction that resembles the 2009 promotion Fanfest footage. Links to those videos will be in the description. But I mean, shit, I haven't even talked about the walking in stations rant. Like, here we are. But CCP is kind of running out of time here. Like, games like similar to Star Citizen, where you can go from ship to station, back to ground to ship, and seamlessly doing that and having purpose. Yeah, Star Citizen isn't quite there yet with the purpose part of it, but it's got the seamless parts of the ship to ground aspects down already. And if they get some kind of system where, you know, you have like a player economy, you have like a thing where people are fighting over land, you know, that, if Star Citizen gets that, that'll be the de facto ultimate sci-fi experience. Eve will be in trouble at that point. Let's wrap up my impressions of the entire test so far. It's good that we got to get our feet back on the ground again after 10 years. It's really good to see that the sci-fi shooter concept for Eve is not dead yet. Unreal Engine 5 is a really good engine, visually speaking, to help with the aesthetic of Eve. I really hope this input inspires enough people working with CCP on the project to help push it in a certain direction. But whatever happens in the future, Eve forever all the way. But we're not done with the Eve Vanguard tests yet. We still have a handful more days left. We have a Discord that is mostly Vanguard focused. If you're interested in getting into some squads, join the Discord and hit us up there. Link to the Discord will be in the description. I also have a Dust focused channel from back in the day. I was a tank pilot, Naka Indigene. The channel Naka 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 will be linked in the description below as well. And whatever happens in the future, I'll see you on the battlefield.